All right, good evening, everyone. This time I'd like to call the Township of Wainfleet regular council meeting of July 29th, 2025 to order. At this time, please stand for the national anthem. We would like to begin this meeting by acknowledging the land on which we gather is the traditional territory of the Anishinaabe and the Haudenosaunee peoples, acknowledging the One Bowl and Spoon Treaty. Are there any disclosures of pecuniary interest? Seeing none, please note that these meeting proceedings are being broadcast live, recorded, and made available through the Township website and youtube.com. Our next regular meeting of council is Tuesday, September 9th at 6:30 p.m. Are there any remarks from any members of council? Seeing none. Okay, we're going to move right into the adoption of previous council minutes. So I have a motion that the minutes of the regular meeting of council held July 8th, 2025 be adopted as circulated. Can I get a mover and a seconder? Councilor Van Fleet, Councilor McClellan. Any discussion? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All in favor? Opposed? That is carried. Okay, going to move into public meetings. We have one public meeting this evening, being the consideration meeting for the Aldrey Drain. Mr. Jamison, can you please provide a brief overview of your related staff report?
Great. Thank you through you, Mr. Mayor, to all of council. So Drainage Staff Report 5 is to discuss the updates and improvements to the Aldrey Drain. So tonight will be the consideration meeting as per Section 42 of the Drainage Act. And at the meeting to consider, it provides property owners with an opportunity to ask questions of the engineer or to express concerns over the engineer's report and how it relates to the design or any errors. So assessments can be discussed in the future and dealt with through the Court of Revision, which is following the provisional adoption of this report. So the staff report is recommending scheduling the Court of Revision for September 10th. So the Aldrey Drain was initiated through a landowner request in 2024 to accommodate improvements to facilitate tile drainage. The site meeting was held in October of 2024, and then there was a preliminary meeting held in April of 2025. There's been quite a few other landowner meetings throughout that process, and notices for this meeting were distributed as per Section 41 of the Drainage Act on July 10th. So at this time, I'd like to invite Brandon Widner, the engineer, to provide some more information on the report that they have submitted.
Good evening, everybody. Tonight we have the Aldrey Drain. This was a Section 78 request. We originally had one request from one of the DeVries properties for an improvement on this drain. Their farm was tile drained and they were just looking for an improved outlet and some improved depth. So this drain was previously constructed under a report by C.J. Clark from 1961. And it consists of a main drain starting at the Bezor. It then heads pretty well directly north on the west side of Perry Road through a number of large lots. Some are agricultural, some are residential. And then it ends up in a DeVries property, and the drain splits and goes east and west to serve the neighboring lands. So originally we had a request from S&T DeVries on the west side of Perry Road, as there is an existing tile outletting there. We then received some additional requests from D. DeVries and Best Home Farms. So So tonight we have a new and improved system. It's a two-stage system, or it's a divided system, I should say. We have an open portion, which is going to remain in the lots on the west side of the road, with some culverts being installed. We then have a closed system, which is deeper, being installed on the east side, which will then serve as a subsurface outlet for the upstream lands. So we have two drains now. We have a main drain and a drain that's referred to as the DeVries branch, which is on the other side of the road, to serve the lands as they are. So the issue we had here is we need additional depth for the upstream watershed, but we did not want to deepen the drain substantially in these residential and or agricultural lots because it's very near their homes. So that's why we went with what is being proposed. Everybody on the open portion that wanted a new culvert is getting one. There was one landowner that chose to, I believe, install it privately at a later date. That being said, total cost of the project is approximately $385,500, and everything is broken down as per the schedules. As you see, Schedule A, the allowances are shown. Schedule B, there's a cost estimate provided. Schedule C is the assessments imposed on the properties for construction. And then there's a Schedule D, which is a future maintenance schedule for the future when work has to be done. That being said, I'm happy to answer any questions anyone may have this evening.
Thank you. Are there any questions or comments from members, council? Okay, seeing none, are there any members of the public who wish to provide any comments? Okay, please come to the pulpit. Name and address. Okay. And just please state your name and address. Just press the little button right there so we can hear you.
Diane Horvat, Perry Road on the east side, first property to the DeVries lands. Just wondering when, I guess, the project would commence, and whether our driveway would be accessible or inaccessible for any period of time. What would happen at the time that it goes across the driveway, if we would have to park across the road or on the road.
Mr. Jemison?
Through you, Mr. Mayor. So if everything goes smoothly with the adoption of this report, I would think construction could occur as early as this fall, but likely through the winter. And then during the time of construction, we would be in communication with property owners, and we would be giving notification for any sort of closure. I would anticipate that there would be some temporary access when they're working directly in front of your property, but there would be 24, 48 hours notice that we would be able to accommodate any access issues. But by the end of each day, you would have access back to your property.
Okay, that's great. Good to know. That's all I had. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much.
Leave it on.
That's okay. Any other members of the public have any comments, questions? Okay, seeing none. Is there any further discussion from members of council? Okay, seeing none, so then I have a motion that the Drainage Staff Report DSR 5/2025 respecting the Aldry Drain Engineering Report for consideration be received, and that a bylaw be given 2 readings to provisionally adopt the Aldry Drain Engineers Report dated November 21st, 2024, prepared by Sprite Associates Engineers and Architects under Section 4, Chapter D, 17 of the Drainage Act RSO 1990, and that staff be directed to advance the Aldry Drain to the Court of Revision as per Section 46(1) of the Drainage Act RSO 1990, and that Councillor Anderson, Councillor McClellan, and Councillor Van Fleet be appointed as members to the Aldry Drain Court of Revision, and that myself, Mayor Grant, be appointed as an alternate member to be tentatively scheduled for September 10th, 2025 at 4 p.m. Can I have a mover and a seconder? Councillor McClellan? Councillor Anderson, thank you. Any other discussion? Seeing none, I will call the question. All in favor? Opposed? That is carried. Okay, moving into delegations. So we have a delegation this evening regarding Niagara Health, South Niagara Hospital local share contribution So I'll invite Lynn Guerrero, President and CEO of Niagara Health, is here to speak to us to request a municipal local share contribution for the South Niagara Hospital project. Ms. Guerrero, you have 10 minutes to make your presentation. Thank you. I hope I pronounced that okay.
It was close enough.
Perfect.
Thanks so much, Mayor Grant, and councillors, for the opportunity to speak with you this evening. My name is Lynn Guerrero, so very close. I'm the President and CEO of the Niagara Health System. I'm going to be joined at the podium by Harpreet Bassi. She is the Executive Vice President, Strategy and Communications, the Executive Lead for Research and Niagara Health Knowledge Institute, as well as the Interim Executive Vice President for Capital Planning and Redevelopment. She has a very long title. We're also joined by other members of our executive team this evening, should there be specific questions that Harpreet and I are unable to answer. So for the next 10 minutes, we hope to do about 3 things. First, to highlight the much-needed transformation of hospital services that's already underway in Niagara. Second, to make our formal request for a commitment of local funding to ensure the construction of the new hospital is completed on time. And then finally, to provide you with an update on opportunities for the future of the Welland Hospital site. It's important to note that you play an important role, and your decisions will have have an impact on the future of healthcare in the Niagara region. So a little bit about our healthcare system. It's really essential to recognize that hospitals are only one piece of a very complex healthcare system. Similar to hospitals across the province, Niagara Health is facing significant system pressures, things like human resources, physician shortages, and financial challenges. All of this while the population continues to grow and also increases complexity, which results in higher demand for healthcare services across the region. Our healthcare system is highly interconnected. The various components must work together to provide comprehensive care for Niagara region. In order to deliver patient-centered, high-quality care, all pieces need to function together seamlessly. When one part of the system faces challenges, it has a ripple effect that can be felt throughout the entire system. We've seen the impact that outdated infrastructure has on our teams and on our patients in recent months, with water damage at both the Welland and Niagara Falls hospitals, which was quite extensive and highly impactful to our teams, but also to patients having to go elsewhere for their surgical procedures, for example. These recent events are a reminder of the challenges that come with aging infrastructure. With the opening of the new South Niagara Hospital and redevelopment of the Welland site on the horizon, we look forward to modern, state-of-the-art facilities that will significantly reduce the risk of life cycle issues like these in the future. The outdated infrastructure limits our physical capacity, and the facilities are beyond the point of renovation or redevelopment to meet our future hospital needs, and it makes it more difficult to ensure the highest level of infection prevention and control. Our patients have become much more complex. They require many more tests to diagnose them, and they require much more time spent on multiple diagnoses. As people live into later years, which is terrific, advances in medicine have done that for us, it also results, though, in more complex patients as we age. But with challenges such as these, there lies an opportunity. You will have heard us talk quite a bit, if you are at all reading your media, about the regional 3-site hospital system by 2028. So hospital services don't end at our municipal borders. This is a regional program. We must operate as a regionally connected system and ensure that all Niagara residents, including those in Wainfleet, receive high-quality care in the right place at the right time, no matter where they live. To provide the best possible care for patients, we must focus our limited resources and build seamless hospital care across Niagara with 3 cornerstone hospitals: the Murata Family Hospital in St. Catharines, the South Niagara Hospital, which will open in 2028, and the Welland Hospital. Our 3-site hospital system will bring together our people, our expertise, and will replace outdated infrastructure, expand our capacity, and deliver timely access to specialized services. For Wainfleet residents, this means better access to specialized services, including stroke care, dialysis, cardiac care, oncology, mental health, and addictions, among others. Niagara Health is shifting to a regional model where care is no longer based solely on proximity to a single hospital, but distributed across our 3 sites. This approach is especially important in Niagara, which has the third oldest population in Ontario. The new South Niagara Hospital will serve as a center of excellence in aging and wellness, offering state-of-the-art services for seniors care, ensuring our aging population, including seniors in Wainfleet, receive the right care in the right place. And while the transformation culminates in 2028 with the opening of South Niagara Hospital, existing and future opportunities at Welland Hospital will continue to strengthen access and care in the region, delivering real benefits for Wainfleet and beyond. We have approximately 1,000 Wainfleet residents that seek care in our emergency departments annually. About 1/3 of those occur in Welland. As well, Niagara Health annually performs about 220 surgical procedures for Wainfleet residents. I understand that many residents in Wainfleet use Haldeman War Memorial Hospital in Dunnville, but it's important to note that Niagara Health actually performs many surgical procedures on behalf of Dunnville. They transfer their patients to us for orthopedic injuries and also for many, quite a large volume of their general surgery cases. So we're very excited about the future of the Welland site, and we, talk so much about the new South Niagara site, but the Welland site also is in need of significant redevelopment to make this model work. The success of the opening of the South Niagara Hospital is dependent on it. Our vision of hospital services in Niagara doesn't work without the Welland site. It is a cornerstone of our model, and we do not want to delay the process of redeveloping it. We've already had substantial feedback from the community and our partners, and share in the vision that the Welland Hospital site should be a campus of care, going beyond the traditional model of acute care and becoming a hub of other community-based healthcare services for an aging and growing population, and to ensure the continuation of emergency services. In the interim, we are working to ensure that the Welland Hospital is prepared for the transition once South Niagara is completed. This includes securing provincial funding for renovations to accommodate an increase in complex care beds at the Welland Hospital, and renovations to house the residential addictions treatment program, moving from the Port Colborne site to the Welland site. We also recognize how essential the Welland Hospital is for the surrounding communities, including Wainfleet. I mentioned the 1,000 emerge visits, and important to know that 1/3 of them do occur in Welland. So it is critical for this community that the Welland Hospital continues to be in use, continues to have 24/7 emergency services, and gets the renovations that it very much deserves. I'm going to pass the mic over to Harpreet.
Today, we're here to respectfully ask for your support for the South Niagara project through our local share ask. We fully recognize the competing priorities that the township faces within Wainfleet and understand the added pressure this request will place on your resources. It is not lost on us. Local share is a portion of funding which the hospital is responsible for when constructing a new hospital. The Ministry of Health's capital cost sharing policy for hospital projects does not cover 100% of costs incurred. Hospitals are required and responsible for 10% of eligible construction costs, which must include all costs associated with equipment such as MRI machines and CT scanners and stretchers, and furniture like the seating and waiting areas. Local share contributions are about more than just cents and dollars. They're a demonstration of leadership from a community, demonstrating that they believe in healthcare for all of their residents, which sends a strong signal to the province. This model is not unique to Niagara, and all hospital projects across the province are required to fulfill this model. In fact, to receive approval for the South Niagara Hospital from the government, Niagara Health was actually required to demonstrate early approvals and early support from municipalities, the community, and our foundation. Niagara Health's local share commitment is $130 million. This number is based on early cost estimates from 2017. And while this number has increased, we've maintained the original estimates despite those increases in construction and other costs. It was in February 2023 when Niagara Health, along with Infrastructure Ontario, announced that Ellis Dawn was awarded a fixed-price contract of $3.6 billion to design, build, and finance and maintain the hospital. So despite the escalating costs, we've committed to maintaining the local share ask as the same, and will take on the additional cost to avoid passing them on to the municipalities. To meet our local share obligation, Niagara Health began requesting contributions from the municipalities in 2021, starting with Niagara Region. Local share commitments are an essential way of meeting the total funding requirements, with the provincial government covering the remaining costs. For the town of Wainfleet, Niagara Health is requesting a contribution of $2.2 million. We're applying a consistent per capita contribution rate of $340.63 across all municipalities. This rate is based on the 2016 census, and as with previous contributions from the region of Niagara and Niagara Falls, we've been speaking to the town of Wainfleet staff. We're asking that the local share commitment be secured before construction is completed in 2028, and the municipalities have an option to pay over many years. There's flexibility in how we work together to secure that payment, and we're happy to work with staff to determine what would be most appropriate for Wainfleet. Again, as I said before, we fully understand that this is a significant investment for a smaller municipality. Our finance team is committed to working with you closely to ensure that it makes financial sense. At the heart of this long-term ask is a long-term benefit. It's an investment in healthcare and the future of all Niagara residents. The South Niagara Hospital will serve generations to come and ensure access to high quality and specialized services into the future. The local share ask across municipalities is consistent. As I mentioned, it's based on a per capita ask from 2016. We recognize the economic challenges that the municipalities are facing. We know that times are tough, particularly with the threats of tariffs looming, but we remain committed to those numbers, and we'll do the hard work of ensuring appropriate funding for the hospital. We're doing our part. The Niagara Health Foundation is working extremely hard to raise funds through our ongoing fundraising campaign that has already raised more than $60 million. But to ensure that we're able to open the hospital in 2028, we need the municipalities to commit to their share.
So as Harpreet mentioned, we understand that this is a significant request for the Township of Wainfleet, but the success of this project is too important to put at risk. Municipal funding demonstrates to the province that healthcare is a priority for residents of Niagara. An investment in South Niagara Hospital ensures there are no delays in construction. By showing strong local commitment through municipal contributions, we strengthen our position with the province, and that momentum is critical for moving forward with other priorities, including the Welland Hospital. And this is a very important note because we are requesting significant funding from the government for Welland. And they're not going to answer that commitment until they see what happens with the South Niagara Hospital and our ability to raise local share. We do believe, as does the Ministry of Health and the province, that healthcare is a shared responsibility, and this investment will ensure state-of-the-art care for Wainfleet residents. Your commitment to providing local share for the new South Niagara Hospital will help us transform and improve healthcare for your community and the entire region. But it also moves us one step closer to redeveloping the Welland Hospital and completing the full vision of the three-site model of hospital care. So we really thank you for your consideration this evening and your support for the new hospital, which will serve patients in Niagara for generations to come. So thank you so much for your time, and thanks again to Mayor Grant and the city staff for all of your support up until now over the past years. And we're happy to take any questions.
Thank you. So thank you for your presentation. Are there any comments or questions from members of council, or does a member of council wish to make a motion? Councilor Van Fleet? Oh, Councilor McCullen, go ahead then.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. Ms. Guerrero, thank you very much for your presentation, but there's a few flaws in it.
My God.
The South Niagara Hospital, as it's named, does not serve us. We are the furthest you can get away from that hospital. I live in Wainfleet, I can get to the St. Catherine's Hospital 10 to 12 minutes faster. And I'm on the northeast end of town. Why you didn't separate us into, because I see West Lincoln, Grimsby, all went to Hamilton. Why you didn't put us with that is beyond me, because that's who services is, most of this community is Dunville. Niagara Falls never was, never wanted to be, and never will be part of South Niagara. It's a new trick that the region's got. They're building a South Niagara water treatment plant. It doesn't service anywhere in South Niagara except for Niagara Falls, St. Catharines, Thorold, and Niagara-on-the-Lake. Because you call it something doesn't mean it is. Now, you ask us for $2.2 million. Our budget is just around $9 million a year, and we scrape to give our senior citizens a little bit of money on that so they can do things. We don't have $2.2 million, and I can't ask the taxpayers to go into debt for that. If you want it from the town, and you'll probably get it, go door to door and ask for donations, because I'm not asking anybody to put that much money up for it, and I'm sorry, we can't afford it.
So let me just clarify a couple of things. Harpreet had mentioned that we can and have been working with municipalities to pay local share over a number of years. We don't expect there to be a check one time, $2.2 million. That's not how municipalities have done this in the past. So we are completely willing to work with the town on some type of payment schedule that makes sense. On the notion of which hospital people go to, this is why it's really important to understand that this model of care with 3 sites means it's a single hospital system that works across 3 sites. All 3 sites, whether it's St. Catharines, South, or Welland, are to serve the entire region. So for example, we only have cancer care. The big cancer program sits in St. Catharines, as does the cardiac program. The stroke program will only sit in the South site. Right now it sits in the Niagara Falls site. So no matter where you live in the Niagara region, unless you're going to West Lincoln Memorial, which actually belongs to Hamilton Health Sciences, it's got nothing to do with Niagara Health, you will be served in the site that makes the most sense for you. So you have a stroke and you're in Pelham, you will go to the New South site, even though you're much closer to go to Welland or St. Catharines. So the notion of the 3-site model is that you go to any hospital door and we transfer you to the site that's best to care for you. So what we've got to get away from is, I live in this community and therefore I go to this hospital. If you live in the Niagara region, save for the western line there that typically will use West Lincoln Memorial, you should be going to any of the sites and you'll be transferred to the correct site. It's not about, this is my hospital in St. Catharines, this is the one I go to. So this model, it's kind of hard to wrap people's head around because they're used to going to the hospital that's in their community. But that's why I mentioned that, you know, you might go to Dunville, but in fact, if you had a fracture, they're immediately transferring you to Niagara Falls now if you went. So we'll be the new hospital. So this interconnectedness of the healthcare system is complicated, but we're trying to get across is it's a single system for the residents of Niagara. I completely respect your opinion on, you know, taxing citizens and the affordability of this. We've kept it consistent across Niagara for a reason, to try to make it a little more equitable, but I acknowledge your remarks. Thank you.
Through you, Mr. Mayor.
Go ahead, Councilor McCullough.
So my next question then is, when will the Welland Hospital be updated?
It's going to be done in 2 phases. So the first phase is, we're calling it a coping project for the specific reason that we're going to do an amount of renovation that allows us to open the south site in 2028, because we can't do the full redevelopment by then. So what we need to do by then is some renovations rather than a big redevelopment in order to fit additional complex care beds there, and to bring the residential addictions program up from Port Colborne, because the Port Colborne site and the Fort Erie sites will be closing. So there's some things that must be done to the Welland site in phase 1 by 2028. So we're starting that immediately. We have RFPs out for design right now to make sure that we can move forward. We are hopeful that we'll get an answer from government on that amount of the funding pretty quickly. Post 2028, once the new south side is open, will be the more fulsome redevelopment of the Welland site. The vision for that is more of a community hub where you have not just hospital services, but perhaps primary care services, seniors services, that kind of thing on the site, as well as it's going to be better for us to do all of our ambulatory cases there. So what we mean by that is same-day procedures, right? So you can now get a hip and a knee done and go home the same day. Those types of same-day procedures we can do at the Welland site. That's going to take a little bit more redevelopment so that we can have those types of procedures done in Welland, which frees up the operating rooms for more complex surgeries where people have to stay overnight afterwards for St. Catharines in the south. So lots of coordination of services, but the Welland redevelopment is going to have to be done in phases.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. So when will Welland be completely redone? I got 2028 for a remodel.
Yeah.
When do you see this being completed?
I cannot give you a date on that because that's going to be dependent on the government of Ontario actually approving the funding.
So anything other than a remodel is just pie in the sky. So now, who's going to pay for that? Are you going to come back to us and ask us again for more money to pay for the Welland Hospital?
So let me comment on pie in the sky first because I want to make sure that people understand that the master plan for Niagara Health has been approved by the Ministry of Health and by the Government of Ontario, which includes the redevelopment of the Welland site. So I would say that we don't have full commitment on the dollars yet and the timeline, but it is in our master plan that has been approved. So let me say that first. And then yes, there will be another construction project quite a few years down the road. And yes, we will have to follow the exact same policy as we follow now, which is we'll have to raise 10% of the construction and 100% of the equipment. Now, Welland's going to be quite a bit less expensive because it's not going to have acute care in the building. It's only going to have complex care. It's going to have same-day procedures, not fully equipped operating rooms. So it is a much, I'll say, cheaper build than something like South Niagara, which is a huge hospital, bigger than St. Catharines at $3.6 billion over 30 years. So much smaller build, but yes, in fact, we'll have to follow the exact same recipe as we did for the South site.
Good for now.
Councillor Van Fleet?
Through you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you for the presentation. I would echo what Councillor McCullen said. We are the Niagara Falls South, whatever they're going to call it, hospital. They're not South. There's nothing about South in that hospital. And most of our seniors live south. So I don't understand, first of all, why Port Colborne and Fort Erie closed, but that's a different discussion. How much is the province of Ontario giving to this build, like funding?
3.6 billion minus 230 million.
They're
3.6 billion.
okay. So the, what, 900 million? No. 3. Okay. So they're giving, and how much is the region giving you?
So the province of Ontario is funding this hospital, 3.6 billion.
Not the whole
Region is
hospital.
giving us 40. Niagara Falls is giving us 30. So we could put back up the slide that actually has all of the
No,
different.
that's okay. My point is that that's all taxpayers' money, correct?
Yes.
And the money that you're fundraising is coming from taxpayers as well,
The foundation is raising money through donations, yes.
which comes from taxpayers. So I can't morally ask the residents of Wainfleet to pay $2.2 million to a hospital that isn't going to benefit the whole entire township. We had to scrimp and save and literally fight each other to get a fire hall built that is benefiting our whole entire township. I know that I don't have a doctor in the Niagara Health System, but I have a doctor in Haldeman. And whenever I need extended care, like my cardiologist, I went to Hamilton. They didn't send me to St. Catharines, they sent me to Hamilton. So the majority of the people I know go to Haldeman, and it's 44 minutes from Wainfleet to the South Niagara Hospital. It's 44 minutes to St. Catharines. It's 54 minutes to Juravinsky. So travel time really doesn't matter, because I did Juravinsky every single day for a month when my mom was in there, so I know how long it takes. So I just really can't understand why you're asking us for money when there's so many other hospitals there. And I want to know where the $340 per person came from.
That was based on how we allocated or requested municipal contributions for the St. Catharines build. So the St. Catharines Hospital is just over 10 years old, opened about 10 years ago. Based on the way we did it back then, we just updated the census number to a 2016 census, and we just took a straight up per capita amount.
Okay, so did we just pull the 340 out of the air? I don't know where it came from. Oh, okay, okay, so I get that. Yeah, I just still can't wrap my brain around that much money. Like, our budget is so tight to begin with. Even if we did do installments or whatever it was, I can't morally ask the people of Wainfleet to pay that. But thank you for the presentation.
Councilor McClellan, go ahead.
You, Mr. Mayor, when you had the list up there of communities and their donations, I don't know if I missed it or if it just wasn't there. I didn't see St. Catherine's name on that list of what they've given. Have they approved to pay for this, or are they, where are they?
St. Catherine's paid the substantial amount when the St. Catharines site was built.
Yes.
You're also going to notice that there was other municipalities that weren't listed there in Niagara. The way that we did it when St. Catharines was built was St. Catharines and Niagara-on-the-Lake did most of the donations. I believe Niagara Falls might have done some as well, but we did not ask for all the other municipalities like Wainfleet, Fort Erie. We did not ask at the time. Back when all of this was being contemplated, there might have been a plan for only 2 hospitals, one in the north and one in the south. So the way we were doing the models changed to 3 sites from 2, and it's also why we changed the way we're requesting municipalities' share in the local share. So you're right, we're not asking St. Catharines because they contributed almost everything that a municipality would contribute, just them and Niagara-on-the-Lake. And I think maybe a little bit in Niagara Falls. And Thorold, sorry, so Thorold as well.
Okay, thank you.
Councilor Anderson, go ahead.
Thank you for your presentation. I'm an acute care nurse, 30 years out of Hamilton, so I get the healthcare picture. My questions are actually more fiscally directed. If you've set a limit of 230 local, according to census of 16 and per capita costing, if you are in fact at 230, probably, given the rise of construction, you're probably underfunded there. So I'm interested in the funding sources to make up that difference. I'm also interested in what your options are for possible payout by any of the 4 or 5 municipalities listed. And it was on the paper that I have in front of me, it says that there could be a current borrow rate over time at 6.2 approximately % interest. So borrowing is compounding debt. Mm-hmm. Interest is compounding debt interest. So that means that in fact, if we had to borrow money on your amount, we're already paying more money. So back to my question, where are you going to upfund your 230? Mm-hmm. What are your sources? And was there ever any talk from any other area or region about arrangements for funding that would in fact even possibly be considered interest-free?
I'll answer the first 2, and then I'll ask Harpreet or Teresa to come up for the third, because I won't be able to answer that in detail. With respect to other sources of funding, so you're correct. We didn't increase the local share amount that we were asking the community to contribute when the cost of construction went up, because we were already out there publicly with a number. It's a high number. We really didn't want to go back to municipalities in the region to change it. So we decided to hold on the original number. The other sources that go into local share, the other significant source is our foundation. So the more money the foundation raises, the better, as you know, and we've had a very, very successful campaign thus far. We have parking and other revenues that a hospital uses, typically towards operations, that unfortunately, when we're going through a build where we can't raise enough money through the community, we do have to put some of our own revenue towards the build. So typically, a hospital in Ontario gets about 85% of their revenue from government and about 15% of their revenue from parking, food, and differential room rates. So from insurance companies paying for a semi-private or private room, let's say, right? Unfortunately, Niagara, we only make about 8%, 8 to 9% of our revenue from those sources. But nevertheless, we do. And we would have to put some of that money towards local share, unfortunately, which probably should go to patient care, but that's one way we will have to fund it. And often hospitals have to go out to market to borrow money for local share. So there are other sources. We are very, very hopeful that the region and the municipalities will come through with the amount that we're hoping for. The foundation is doing amazing work, and they've really, they've surpassed what they thought they could do already, which is fantastic. So they're doing great work. The rest we will have to come up with through revenue.
I might continue. Have you had any indication from the province that they would issue rescue money?
What do you mean by rescue money?
If you can't make your quota, is the province open to putting in rescue funds on top of what they've already stated?
They're very, very clear on local share, and you can imagine if they came and rescued one hospital, all hospitals would be knocking on their door with their hands out. We've been told very clearly if we don't come up with local share, the doors don't open. Now, would they come and rescue us at the last minute? I don't know, but that's not something that we would contemplate with them right now. Before the hospital is approved, before any money flows from the province, our local share plan has to be approved, It has to be deemed reasonable, it has to be deemed doable, and at that time, they deemed it so. So for them to come back and then bail us out will be a problem. There's 4 hospitals, I think, that are starting construction or about to start construction right now for big builds. All of them came in way higher than budgeted, and so all of them are going to have trouble raising local share. So if the government were to save one, they'd have to save everybody. I'll say that the government they don't have any capital money right now. There's a lot of money promised, so there's sort of nothing out there left from the provincial government. So we're not counting on any rescue funds from government. I'm going to ask Teresa to come up and answer your question about some of the ways that that we've agreed with municipalities that they could pay. Teresa's our Director of Finance, by the way.
So we have offered some of the other municipalities a payment over time. As mentioned, we will have to borrow if we don't have the money at substantial completion when the build is ready. So one of the things that we're looking at, if you do want to pay over time, we have offered all the municipalities an option of payment terms with a 5% discount rate applied to that to cover our financing costs that we would have to borrow over time. So we've modeled anything from 10 to 20 years for different municipalities. So that makes it a little bit more affordable for them with respect to the tax levies or whatever that they would need to look at for their constituents.
I might continue. I always find durations of debt debentures scary. The longer you borrow, the more you pay. Mm-hmm. So I think on a 4% debenture or 20 years, your interest push is probably 60 or 70% interest on top of principal. I mean, that just gets to be an astounding amount of money. And you're going to be in that issue yourselves.
Yeah, and I mean,
you're probably going to have to borrow out.
That's right. So based on the commitments that we get from the different municipalities, we would structure our borrowing in line with that. Even right now for St. Catharines, we have some municipalities that are still paying overtime, and the hospital is 12 years old. So, we've made those arrangements with those municipalities and have structured our commitments accordingly.
Just 2 things. In closing, it's difficult for Wainfleet to commit to fiscal projects. Our growth is minimal. The government recognizes that. We weren't really given any option or obligation to increase our population housing numbers where the rest of the region is, and I understand the need to build out extra care, beds, et cetera, because of a growing population. the expectation is that Wainfleet isn't really going to grow. It's a lot of countryside full of a lot of farming. So our fiscal draw is, and probably for the foreseeable future, will be on a very set amount of income. Tax-based income, we're short commercial, we're short industrial, so our dollars are taxpayer dollars. That's just a point, and I know you know that. The other thing is, unless someone else has something to say, I have a finishing statement.
Madam CEO?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So through you to the presenters, thank you so much for taking the time to come out and present. We really appreciate it. I just have a couple of questions. One being, and I don't know if you can disclose this or not disclose this, but how many of the municipalities have confirmed the local share at this point?
The region has confirmed in writing. The City of Niagara Falls has confirmed in writing. The Welland and Port Coburn are, I'm going to say, in discussion. They would be the sort of next two that I would say will be approved.
Okay.
And Fort Erie and Wainfleet and Pelham would be the three that I would expect to come last.
Okay.
So we just requested Pelham a month ago or 2 months ago. Port Coburn was last year, but they're doing a community consultation. So they're going to take longer to do that. And then Welland was fairly recent as well.
Okay. And I guess my question is, like, I drive past that site at least 3 times a week. It seems a little bit late that, I mean, if we're trying to get this local share, Niagara Falls committed, I think, over a year ago at least. Why is this the first time it's coming to my council?
So Niagara Falls literally signed last week, formally.
Well, that's even
Yeah.
more troubling, because
Yeah.
they have the
Yeah.
biggest amount of money, and the
So-
building is
Yeah, so these things
alive
take
and well.
time. They donated some of the money because it was in Niagara Falls, or sorry, some of the land. So
No, it's
we
in Niagara
definitely
Falls, you're
talked
right.
to them first, because we were already talking to them about donation of land.
Okay.
And the region was an obvious early request. I think for us, it was important to make sure that the larger dollar amounts were secured first. So as we went out to request, obviously, the larger communities with the larger populations, if we're doing it on a per capita basis, we wanted to get out first because those were obviously the largest dollar amounts that we needed to secure. And then everything else has sort of just come from there. So there was nothing about whether we were coming late, early. This has always been the timetable that we were working with. We have to have this finished by 2028. So we're still, 3 years from having to have it completed. So there was nothing about sort of waiting for Wainfleet. It was just a matter of getting the larger dollar amounts first.
Can I continue? Okay, thank you. And I can appreciate that. That makes perfect sense to get Niagara Falls and the region on board initially, except like scaling it back to a small town, I can't start building something before I have council approval if I don't know that I have money. So it's already being built.
Yep.
We're not just going to stop building it, I presume.
No.
We're going to have to somehow fund it.
We will have to borrow the money.
One way or another.
Yes.
So it's
We will have to borrow the money or put other revenue towards it, as I said, right? So, typically hospitals use their revenue from parking, food, differential room rates towards patient care. It's part of their base budget. We do not get funding from the government that covers 100% of our costs. I think everybody knows that. So
We don't either,
We
yeah.
do rely on that, as you guys probably do. And we'll put that towards local share if we have to, and then the rest is borrowed. And I would say that this is not uncommon in Ontario hospitals. This isn't a Niagara Health only issue. The very important thing was to get that hospital approved and get the shovel in the ground, irrespective of us not having every T crossed and I dotted on local share, because it was already 10 to 15 years in the planning. People didn't believe it would ever happen. It was really important to get those shovels in the ground before anybody sort of backed out of the deal. So, yes, not all the funding has been figured out.
okay. Thank you for that.
Councilor McCullen? Oh. Councilor McCullen? Mr. Hart? Oh,
Sorry.
hold on, Madam CEO, like
Sorry,
that.
so through the mayor to the presenter, if all of the other municipalities confirm their local share commitment, and we were on the fence or not able to commit the full amount or needed to spread it over a certain number of years, like in order for us to not incur additional interest, like, is there, like, does NHS have enough money to cash flow that? Or would we have to, if we were the only ones that did not secure, would you still have to take out debt for the 2.2?
I cannot tell you that today. Most hospitals in the province are in huge financial constraints right now, running deficits, right? First time in history that we've had, most Ontario hospitals are running a deficit. So for me to tell you that we'd be able to borrow that money, would we have to borrow the money or not? I can't answer that.
Okay,
Unfortunately, I would absolutely love to be doing it without borrowing money, but the reality is, right now, the way hospitals are fiscally constrained, we would probably borrow the money.
Okay, thank you for that.
Mr. Hart?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I just wondered if you'd be able to share what the per capita contributions were on the St. Catharines Hospital for those who contributed and the West Lincoln Hospital for those that contributed. I just think that there might be a few things working against the citizens of Wainfleet, that being that this hospital is the largest, most expensive hospital that anyone's ever contributed towards, and also the populations being used on 2016 statistics. And I'm willing to wager that Wainfleet is the lowest growth percentage population that is contributing to this hospital. So thereby, we may be contributing more than the others.
Per capita cost for St. Catharines was? Okay, we'll get that to you in writing because we don't have it at our fingertips. West Lincoln is not part of Niagara Health System, therefore I can't tell you because I wasn't in charge of that build, so I don't know what they contributed. I have a feeling though that, isn't that the, I don't know if they contributed at all. I don't know how Hamilton Health Sciences ran the construction of that building. Okay, well then they did, but I wouldn't have that information. The per capita was, I mean, doing it the way we did it was to take account of an equitable way based on population. So even though it's 2016 census, if the other municipalities are growing, I understand your point that if Wainfleet isn't growing, it's probably not, maybe the differential would have been different, but when we were planning the hospital and when we had to give numbers to government, this has been in the works for 10 years. So it's not uncommon for, you know, lags in the timing of when things would have been calculated. But we just wanted to make sure it was equitable across and that we used what we thought was a reasonable per capita. I believe the per capita is very similar dollar amount than what we used in St. Catharines, but we can get you that.
Who wants to go first? Councillor Van Fleet, go ahead.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. I just have a quick question to the presenters. Do you have any idea what happened with the Mississauga Hospital that their council said no, they weren't contributing any money to the new build that was happening? Like,
Okay, I'm hearing that they came back and they're giving $235 million, Mississauga.
It was first a no, and then they received communications from the Ministry of Health saying that the government would not close the gap, and it was up to the hospital. And then the city of Mississauga reconsidered and came back with a $235 million agreement that they would contribute on that.
do we know if that was at a council meeting or if it was?
It was at a council meeting.
It was at, okay, I'll look it up. Thank you.
It's, if you just Google it, it's in the media, because we were watching it very closely.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor McCullen, you got something?
$14 million on that project? Why are we contributing $14 million to something that is, it's in the region, but it's not under the region's health system's control? Like,
You'd have to ask the region. I mean, I think that they were beholden to, those are residents of Niagara, and it's Niagara region. They represent all 12 municipalities. I have to guess that that was part of it, but yeah, I'm not sure what the deliberations were.
okay, so the other thing is, I'm guessing that most of you your ladies had to use Niagara Navigator to get here, or Google Navigator to get here tonight.
Nope. Well, it depends on your definition of young. If I'm there, then no.
I'm being polite. So, but I would guess most of you haven't spent a day in Wainfleet.
You know what? You're wrong.
I might be.
You're wrong. Most of my executive team
Yep.
they've lived in Niagara region for many, many years, and in fact, they drove me to one of your lovely establishments for a quick bite before the meeting, and they didn't need a map or to find out where that was.
Okay, so maybe I was wrong. But if you live in Wainfleet, we give $9 million a year to the region of Niagara. We got a part-time ambulance service. We've got a part-time cop. We have a bridge that's been out for 5 years. There's not a bridge in Niagara that's been out for 5 years ever in the last 50 years. We've got a bridge that's been out for 5 years because they can't get it built. We can't grow because the region came in and gave us, for the next 20 years of growth, they gave us, I think it was 81 hectares. So it's a hectare lot to be in the country. So they gave us 80 houses over the next 20 years. We've had a boil water advisory to Niagara, the region of Niagara, not the township, because we've been paying for sewer and water since the region was designed and started. We don't have a foot of regional sewer water in this town. And we have the longest standing boil water advisory in Ontario. Bar no other nation or First Nation, we have the longest standing. So there isn't a lot of trust in this end of town to say we want to help the region. And believe me, when I started this, I said it wasn't in South Niagara, that hospital, or in Wainfleet. That's the belief across town to anybody I've spoken to. So I'm not picking on you. I don't want to shoot the messenger. It's not that. We're just going to have a really hard sell to try and get that kind of money out of our taxpayers. That's why I said at the beginning, you might do better going door to door, and you might be able to get your money or even more. But it's a
Well, I
tough
don't work.
sell here.
Yeah, I don't work for the region, so I
No.
can't comment on all those
I'm
other
just
things.
telling you
Your
the
mayor
story.
sits on regional council, so I'm sure he has stuff to say at those meetings. So you do have someone sitting there, but we are a provincial regional hospital. So we function as a regional hospital. We function as the region of Niagara, except a very slim slice along the border that Hamilton runs for West Lincoln Memorial. So we have to run regionally. We cannot run by community, and we are funded provincially. So when you talk about borders and who lives where and who goes to what hospitals, we have to look above that. We're provincially funded, and we function as a regional health system. So I recognize that, in smaller communities, that's difficult, and I completely acknowledge your comments. I'm not, disagreeing, and so I hear where you're coming from. We're just making the request because we think that healthcare will be important to some people who live in Wainfleet, and you do use the Niagara Health System. So when we pulled the data, I told you it's over 1,000 visits a year for the ED and a lot of surgical procedures and others. So healthcare needs to be really important to every municipality, so we are just coming with the request.
So if I can, I've used the Niagara Health System. I have no complaints about it. I grew up in a place where probably had the best hospitals in the world. I can't complain about what we have here. I've been treated as good or better than I was anywhere else under private systems. You can tell by my accent probably where I'm talking about. Right?
I can, sir.
But, so I have no complaints about the Niagara Health System. I just don't know how we're going to get this across the taxpayers.
Thank you.
Go ahead, Councilor Van Fleet.
I have, just want to say it again. When you say provincially funded, that drives me crazy. Not just you, but everybody who does it, because I would prefer somebody say taxpayer funded, because you talked about parking, again, that's taxpayers. But anyway, would they be an acute care ER at this hospital?
In the new south side?
Yes.
Did you say acute care what?
An acute care or an ER?
Oh, yes.
Okay.
It's huge. It's bigger than St. Catharines. Okay. So there's 469 acute care beds. The Emerge is triple the size of the current Niagara Falls Emerge. That's what we sort of use for a comparison so our brains work. So it's triple the size of that Emerge. Operating rooms, I'm forgetting. critical care beds, level 3 critical care, like the most critical. So no, it is a full-service acute care hospital, similar to St. Catharines, but bigger.
So does Welland lose their ER?
No, 24/7 emergency services at Welland. There will not be acute care beds in Welland. There will be observation beds so that the emerge can keep people if they need to be kept before transferring. So if someone came in, let's say, and needed vascular surgery already now, if you needed a vascular procedure done and you showed up in Welland or Niagara Falls, you'd be transferred to St. Catharines. Welland is still going to be a 24/7 emerge. They will transfer out if a patient requires a length of stay in an acute bed or a surgical procedure that can't be done same day. So that's how we will be moving patients, and that's why it's a regional system. It has to sort of work all together.
Which would be great if we had regional transit or ambulances to get there.
Yes.
Down here, because we're in the south, just so. Okay, thanks.
Councillor Anderson.
Thank you for the presentation. I can appreciate healthcare, for sure. If there are no other statements from anyone else on council or staff or yourselves, through you, Mayor, I'd like to state a resolution that the delegation be received and that council directs staff to prepare a report outlining the fiscal feasibility and request that options be considered and brought back to this council September the 9th. That's our next earliest meeting.
Thank you.
Okay. Yeah, so I'll just need a seconder. Okay, Councilor McCullen, any discussion on the motion? Okay, seeing none, then I will call a question. All in favor? Of course. Opposed? That is carried. Okay, thank you
Thank you
for
very
your
much.
presentation. Thank you for your time. Okay, moving on to the consent agenda. We have no items on our consent agenda this evening. Moving into staff reports, administrative staff report, ASR 13-2025, respecting the 2025 Q2 projected results report. Mr. Hart, can you please provide a brief overview of your report?
Good evening, Mayor and Councils. I have before you the projected year-end results as of Q2 2025. The report goes into more detail on the exact reasonings for any projected surplus or shortfall, but overall, the township is expecting an approximate 441,000 operating surplus, 217,000 capital surplus, and reserve fund balances of 5.5 million. The township and staff have done an excellent job on staying on track for the budgeted expenditures, especially given that the 2025 budget had a lot of reduction in budget line items to help offset inflationary increases in contracted services, benefits, and materials, among other things. The capital surplus of 217,000 does not represent a levy surplus, but rather a budget surplus as a result of projects that were grant funded and were not approved and thus canceled. And then as such, reserves were not required to be utilized. The reserve and reserve fund balances are expected to reduce by approximately 1.5 million year over year. And this is the result of the capital requirements in 2025 being higher than the capital infrastructure levies can support by themselves. So this is a trend that will continue if we do not continue to invest in our infrastructure and equipment in the township, as we are continually seeing these costs rise, and there are extensive equipment and infrastructure needs over the next 10 plus years. As a result, I am happy to answer any questions that you or council may have.
Thank you, Mr. Hart. So I have a motion that the administrative staff report ASR 13-2025 respecting the 2025 Q2 projected results report be received as information. Can I have a mover and seconder? Councilor McCullen, Councilor Anderson, thank you. Any discussion? Councilor McCullen, go ahead.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. I'm just wondering, some of these projects didn't go because we didn't get funding. But right now, the prices are probably the lowest they've been in years. Under the capital projects, there's a little over $200,000. I'd like to make a motion that we get Mr. Nan to look at what he can get done for that much money, and if it's, whether it's replace a culvert that needs doing, the next road on the list, well, the prices are down. Can we get this money spent this year where we can save $1?
Mr. Hart?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I want to clarify the 200,000 surplus in the capital projects was for the ball diamond renovation. of which that was significantly covered by grant funding. So I don't have the exact figure on me, but the majority of that money was grant funding that we didn't end up getting. There isn't actually a lot of surplus that we could use towards other projects in this capital budget. Yeah, exactly. That's.
When you say there isn't a lot of money, what is it? What is there?
So I would have to do a further analysis on, I guess, the actual reserve portion of that surplus shortfall. I would say it's probably close to the net difference of 16,500, because the majority of that 200,000 is grant funded.
Okay, all right, yeah. Yeah, so that's not enough to do anything. Okay,
No motion?
no motion.
Okay. Any other discussion? Councillor Van Fleet, Councillor Anderson? Councillor Anderson's ready.
Through you, Mayor, thank you. Did you, and I'm sure I was awake, but did you run through the breakdown on the debenture debt? That was a question that I had fielded from a resident.
So through you, Mr. Mayor, to the councillor, I didn't get that exact breakdown. I'm looking it up right now, but the 438,000 of that 607,000 is pertaining to the central fire station, and the remainder is for the arena debt.
Oh, sorry. I was just looking at another number. Thank you very much. That was the question that I was fielding from a resident. Thank you.
Right, any other discussion? Okay, seeing none, then I will call the question. All in favor? Opposed? And that is carried. Okay, we're going to move into drainage draft reports. DSR 6, 2025, respecting the petition for drainage works, the Holman Branch Culver Drain. Mr. Jemison, can you please provide a brief overview of your report?
Great, thank you. Through you, Mr. Mayor. So Drainage Staff Report 6 discusses the petition submitted under Section 4 of the Drainage Act as to be part of the Culver Drain project. In 2019, Council appointed an engineer to undertake an improvement project on the Shafley Road Drain and the Culver Drain under Section 78 of the Drainage Act. But based on the watershed and the proposed design, an additional petition is required just to maintain compliance with the Drainage Act. So I'm happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Jemison. So I have a motion that the Drainage Staff Report DSR 6, 2025, respecting the petition for drainage works on the Holman Branch Culver Drain be received, and that council accept the petition for drainage works and authorize staff to provide the petition to Headway Engineering to be included in the Culver Drain Improvement Project. Can I have a mover and a seconder? Councilor McCullen, Councilor Van Fleet, thank you. Any discussion? Councilor Van Fleet.
Through Mr. Mayor, to Mark. I'm going backwards, the last drainage report. It had said that parts of it are not grantable. Have we ever seen that before?
Through Mr. Mayor to the councilor, so non-grantable for agricultural properties, there's a few pieces of projects that the province doesn't put grant on. So an existing municipal drain that we would have like an open ditch, if you were to close that in with subsurface tile, the additional cost of enclosing that is not grantable. So parts of the project are, but that increased level of service for the property owners is not covered by grant. So for the previous project, the Aldry Drain, it's an existing open ditch. The improvement to that ditch is grantable, but the enclosure is not. So for the portions of that upstream lands, that's what the identified costs that will be directly out of pocket for those property owners.
Okay. I don't think I've seen that before, or have we seen that before? I just never noticed it, I guess.
Through Mr. Mayor, so we haven't seen it, we've seen it indirectly through the Indian Creek project. This would be the avenue under the Drainage Act that we would cover it from the front end. But it's something that we'll see moving forward. The enclosures are more common in areas with higher land values, and we're going to start to get that here. Some of our ditches are going to be enclosed to facilitate that. So we'll see more of it.
Okay,
forward.
thanks, Mark.
Councilor McCullen, go ahead.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, just a question mark. So if somebody pays to get it closed in this time, 20 years from now, they go to replace the municipal drain and clean the ditches. Then does that get paid for under the, so you won't get denied it again? Once you've paid for it once, it gets paid for after that?
So through you, Mr. Mayor, so if in the future, so this project, say they're installing a 15-inch tile,
Yeah.
if that 15-inch tile in 20 years need maintenance, they'll just pay for that maintenance cost, and that will be grantable.
Okay.
All right, any other discussion? Seeing none, I will call the question. All in favor? Opposed? That is carried. Okay, moving on to fire staff reports. FSR for 2025, respecting the 2025 Q1 and Q2 fire and emergency services update. Chief Alcock, can you please provide a brief overview of your report?
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of council. The report I have before you this evening is just a summary of the fire department activity that has occurred within both Q1 and Q2 of 2025, if there's any questions.
Thank you, Chief. So I have a motion that the fire staff report FSR for 2025 respecting the 2025 biannual fire and emergency services review be received for information. Can I have a mover and a seconder? Councillor Van Fleet, Councillor McClellan, any discussion? Councillor Anderson.
Thank you, through you, Mayor. Thank you, Chief Alcott. I always love your reports because you put lots of color pictures in them, so they're entertaining. Thank you. The other thing is, congratulations on bringing up the fire service over the last 5 or 6 years. Well done. And I see there were 3B across our stations, which is another thank you very much for that. And if you would just take, on my behalf, and I'm sure the rest of the council, thank you very much to all the new staff that we saw in one of your first pictures, the new grads, and to the rest of the staff, thank you for the protection and safety of our property and lives. Thank you very much.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, actually, I think the thanks goes to council for the last several years and the investments made to make that happen. So thank you.
Thank you. Well said by both. Any other discussion? Seeing none, okay, then I'll call the question. All in favor? Opposed? That is carried. Okay, now moving into planning staff reports. PSR 7, 2025, respecting zoning bylaw amendment file Z04, 2025W, known municipally as 40132 Port Colborne Wainfleet Town Line Road North. Ms. Ivins, can you please provide a brief overview of your report?
Thank you, through you, Mr. Mayor, to all of council. So this report provides a review of the applicable planning policies as it relates to the zoning bylaw amendment application for 40132 Port Colborne Wainfleet Town Line Road North. So the application proposes to rezone the property to a site-specific agricultural A2-84 zone to permit a garden suite for a period of 10 years. It's my opinion that the amendment meets the applicable provincial, regional, and township planning policies, and I've recommended that the application be approved, and the implementing bylaw is on tonight's agenda as bylaw number 28. Available for any questions.
Thank you, Ms. Evans. So I have a motion that planning staff report PSR 7, 2025 be received, and that the zoning bylaw amendment application Z4, 2025W to pass a temporary use bylaw for a period of 10 years to permit a garden suite for lands known municipally as 40132 Port Colborne Wainfleet Town Line Road North be approved for the reasons outlined in this report, and that the application be deemed to be consistent with the provincial planning statement 2024 and conform with the Niagara official plan and the Township of Wainfleet official plan, and that the zoning bylaw amendment attached as Appendix C be adopted, and that the mayor and clerk be authorized to execute a garden suite agreement. Can I have a mover and seconder? Councilor McClellan? Councilor Anderson, thank you. Any discussion? Councilor McClellan, go ahead.
You, Mr. Mayor. Sarah, somewhere I read in here, so this is 10 years, but they can come in and get an extension for another 10 years. Is that correct?
So the way the zoning bylaw, they can come in for 5-year extensions. So they get 10 years through this approval, and then they can apply for an extension in 5-year increments up to a maximum of 20. So
Okay.
2 5-year extensions.
Yeah, no other municipalities are given 20 years, and I just wanted to make sure we were in line with that, so.
Yeah, 10 years is pretty consistent with what other municipalities are doing in terms of the initial approval.
Thank you.
Any other discussion? Okay, seeing none, so I'll call a question. All in favor? Opposed? That is carried. Okay, moving on to PSR 8/2025, respecting the zoning bylaw amendment file Z05/2025W, known municipally as 83673 Gracie Road. Ms. Ivins, once again, can you please provide a brief overview or report?
Thank you, through you, Mr. Mayor, to all of council. So again, this report provides a review of the applicable planning policies as it relates to this application for 83673 Gracie Road. The application proposes to rezone the property to a site-specific agricultural A2-85 zone to permit a garden suite for a period of 10 years. So it's my opinion that the amendment meets the applicable provincial, regional, and township planning policies, and have recommended that the application be approved. And again, the implementing bylaw is on tonight's agenda as bylaw number 29. Available for any questions.
Thank you, Ms. Ivins. And so I have a motion that the planning staff report PSR 8/2025 be received, that the zoning bylaw amendment application Z05/2025W to pass a temporary use bylaw for a period of 10 years to permit a garden suite for lands known municipally as 83673 Gracie Road be approved for the reasons outlined in this report, and that the application be deemed to be consistent with the provincial planning statement 2024 and conform with the Niagara official plan and the Township of Wainfleet official plan, and that the zoning bylaw amendment attached as Appendix C be adopted, and that the mayor and clerk be authorized to execute a garden suite agreement. Can I have a mover and seconder? Councilor McClellan? Councilor Anderson, thank you. Any discussion? Okay. Seeing none, I'll call a question. All in favor? Opposed? And that is carried. Okay, we have no correspondence on the agenda for consideration this evening. Going to move into bylaws. So we have a few bylaws for consideration this evening, which we'll break out into separate motions. So the first one, I have a motion that bylaw number 2725/2025, being a bylaw to provide drainage works for the Township of Wainfleet in the region of Niagara, be read a first and second time and be provisionally adopted on this 29th day of July 2025. Can I have a mover and seconder? Councilor McClellan, Councilor Anderson. Any discussion? Seeing none, call a question. All in favor? Opposed? That is carried. Okay, now I have another motion that the following bylaws be read and passed this 29th day of July 2025. Bylaw number 28/2025, being a bylaw pursuant to the provisions of Section 34 of the Planning Act, RSO 1990, to amend zoning bylaw number 34/2014 of the Corporation of the Township of Wainfleet with respect to those lands forming Concession 4, Part Lot 1, RP 59R1682, Part 1 in the Township of Wainfleet and known municipally as 40132 Port Colborne Wainfleet Town Line Road North, and bylaw number 29/2025, being a bylaw pursuant to the provisions of Section 34 of the Planning Act, RSO 1990, to amend the zoning bylaw number 34/2014 of the Corporation of the Township of Wainfleet with respect to those lands forming Concession 7, Part Lot 35 in the Township of Wainfleet, known municipally as 83673 Gracie Road. Can I have a mover and seconder? Councilor Van Fleet, Councilor McClellan. Any discussion? Seeing none, call a question. All in favor? Opposed? And that is carried. Okay, are there any notices of motion this evening? Okay, seeing none. Okay, so we have one closed session item this evening, so I'll now put a motion forward that council now move into closed session to discuss item under Section 239(2)B of the Municipal Act 2001, personal matters about an identifiable individual, including municipal or local board employees, one item, a tax matter, and then the minutes of the closed meeting of council held July 8th, 2025. Can I have a mover and seconder? Councilor McClellan, Councilor Anderson, any discussion? Seeing none, I'll call a question. All in favor? Opposed? That is carried. So we will now move into closed.